again, like what we were doing before, you know, when all this happened. I traveled a lot. I owned this company and was very busy with life. And our guy just left. Move this line. Do you want to just do it? There you go. Awesome. And Joachim was doing consulting work. But we knew that we needed to serve this mission. You can go ahead. And so we did. Our papers were in by February, and we were on a quick 6-month mission. Had to fit it in before our son came home from his mission. So you can go ahead. And now I'm going to pass it over to Joachim.
She's much better at this than I am. Anyway, just to correct that, we weren't both there. I can project. We weren't both there during 79 to 80, the 82 that President Powelson. I was there from May of 80 to May of 82. I met my wife later at University of Utah when I was going through ROTC on my part of my career path in the military. So this right here we have is the staff. Yes, this is the presidency of the Taiwan Temple. President Chun is right there. He's from Chiayi. I couldn't tell you his full name. I don't remember. Yeah, mission president. So this is a group that we worked with. You mentioned that we had been invited, and then we've been invited to this mission. So a great group to work with.
One of the things that we learned by working in this temple, so we have just a few slides, like 10, but the temple experience, we thought that you'd work in the temple and you just work with the Taiwan people, but we got to work with people from all over that came. Some of the temples in the Asia area were closed at the time, so they would come to Taiwan. But it was such a blessing to work with so many different people. And I will tell you that I now love Taiwan. And I'm so glad that I went, and I love the people. But we learned a lot working in the temple. One of the things that we learned and that we saw is that the church is really still so very young in so many places. And so we had a lot of opportunity to teach. If you think of being here, probably anywhere in the United States, the temple is just very different in how, I mean, much is the same obviously, but the people are different. So there were things that we were able to help them learn and understand, and that was something that I didn't expect. Everybody asked me if I learned Chinese. I learned temple Chinese. I was able to go through as a patron and also as an ordinance worker and perform it in Mandarin. So I got to experience that gift of tongues, to learn that in such a short period of time. Within a couple weeks of being there, I was able to start doing things in their language, which was a blessing for me.
Which was a miracle I would get compliments, hey, your Chinese is coming along really well, you're doing great. And then Sister Gloshop would walk in and they would just like, oh my gosh, you've been here 3 weeks and you're doing the veil, and it was amazing. And one of the things that she brought up is this, when you serve a mission, even in the temple or any sort of mission, senior mission that you have an opportunity to serve, is you have that special spirit, the mantle of the spirit that protects you and gives you so many blessings and opportunities. The Army had given me opportunities to maintain my language. Among other languages, I maintained Mandarin while I was in the Army. But it had been about 15 years since I'd actively spoken it. But just within, I told myself if I ever make it back to Taiwan, I'm going to take every opportunity to relearn the language. And it turned out to be a blessing because I made it a point, I told Laura, every time we get into a cab, which is the only way you travel unless you go underground, is I would start a conversation. Lean forward and just start talking. And all the missionaries out there, you learn phrases. How do you say this in Chinese? Or what does this mean? And you learn those phrases the first thing you learn. But it would start conversations. And it was so amazing because the cab drivers, it wasn't like when we were there as much, oh, big, tall, white American, what are you doing here, That was a big, I remember that in the 1980s. But this time it was, oh, you speak Chinese, why are you here? And such a wonderful opportunity. So there were times I taught a first discussion on the way to the airport. And so we placed the Book of Mormon, and that's one of our slides, and just wonderful. And one of the things she talked about with the patrons in Taiwan, and of course, if you serve a senior mission, it can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be overseas in a foreign country, but the opportunity to work with other missionaries, to work with the patrons, the members, and some of them are young. Some of them are young in the gospel. In Taiwan, the majority of who we worked with were first-generation members. You know, sadly, and I'm sure if you've been over there looking for members that you baptized in 1980 or 1982, you probably didn't find lots of them. Or maybe it was just me. I baptized 14. I was able to find 3 that were still in the church, and 2 of them were inactive. And so I think a lot of that generation didn't come forward. So we had a lot of new members, and we got to work with them and be gentle and be teaching and loving as we tried to help them navigate, you know, being an endowment worker, being an ordinance worker. Even in the language of the church, the gospel, Laura will share with you a study group that she put together, because we would always get questions of, hey, I listened to General Conference, and this elder or the President Nelson used an idiom or used a euphemism, and they absolutely had no idea what that meant. And they would come to us and say, what in the world did he mean by that?
What does hinge point mean?
Yeah, hinge point.
You guys remember that one?
And so she actually started a study group for that, to help translate English idioms into Chinese. It was a wonderful lesson.
This little group here is from the island of Jinmen, and so all the senior missionaries flew over and spent a weekend, and there's like 12 members. And they just were so excited to have somebody there with them. And so we brought games, we ate with them, we shared testimony with them, and that was a wonderful experience to be with those members. One of the things we also look for is there would be English-speaking people that would come, and these particular ladies were there teaching English, and so we'd take them out to dinner after our temple shift. We meet them, and they just loved having something familiar. And so that turned out to be a blessing, and one of them has sent me a wedding invitation, and so through the technology that we have available today, we're still able to keep in touch with some of those people. One of the blessings and things that we also loved was speaking in the different wards around the island. And so this is us just on the way to one of the sacrament meetings where we were able to share testimony with those members. This was a really neat experience. This couple here is from Singapore. And we had just walked out of, a group of the senior missionaries had just walked out of the restaurant. And we were all deciding whether we were going to go to Monster Ice. And we all decided twofold, the Monster Ice. So everybody went one way, we went another, and this couple was just right there and just staring right at me. And he was pausing, and I was a little concerned. And he pointed at me and he said, "You have to eat with me." And he said it in Chinese, but I can't repeat that. "You have to eat with us." He said, "I promised my stake president that I would share a meal." Do you remember it? With, I can't remember if he said with missionaries, but he would share a meal with missionaries. So we had just eaten. We were so full. And we walked to Yong Kong Noodles and had meal number 2, and I wanted to explode. But they had been inactive for a long time, and he promised his stake president that he wanted to start getting active, and he was going to start by eating with the missionaries, and we happened to be the missionaries that we got to experience that with. And they didn't know that the temple was just right around the corner. And so we asked them, do you know that the temple is right around the corner? And they said, no. So we finished eating and we walked into the temple, and there's this moment where you're walking, you can't see, and then all of a sudden it's right there, and it just took her breath away when she saw that temple. And so this was us just in front of the temple with that experience. This This is just another experience of Joachim sharing the gospel as we're eating dinner with whoever it is next to us.
Yeah, this was just in a small restaurant, just a block. The mission president would take a lot of his brand new elders the first week or so to this restaurant, so we had to try it out. And little children there, and you know, your grandkids, you become a sucker for little children. And so I just leaned over and started talking to the child, and recently talking to the dad, and just an opportunity. It's so great. You put that name tag on, and it just changes your demeanor. It changes how you represent. And we just shared the gospel with them and let them know what we were doing here, and just had a great conversation.
Gives you superpowers.
Yes. So. Well, that's terrible. I just mentioned to my wife that I can't remember his name, and she said it was probably Lee. So I don't remember. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I was getting ready to go on on this mission. And I said, okay, I wrote down meticulously everybody I baptized, and I said I am going to look them all up. I'm going to be so excited to all be mission presidents and stake presidents, and 3 generations in the church. And we were lucky in the sense that we worked in the temple, so I went to the recorder and said, here's 14 names, find them please. And he had access to everything. So he found 3 of them that were still existed in the records, which is not a good start. That was like a major. I came back home and I was so depressed. I said, great, that's like, what am I, 15% success rate. And I said, I don't even want to look up the last 3. I don't want to know that I was 100% failure, And the mission president, President Chun would, grab, and he was temple president, would say, oh no, you need to look them up. You need to find the last 3, just for yourself. And so I did. I was able to chase them down with the temple recorder cell. And we don't have a picture of there's 2 young ladies that, well, when I say I baptized, I participated in their baptism. That's more accurate. That we found, and we took them to dinner. They were nice, they were successful, they were inactive, but it was still nice to reach out and that they were still part of the church in some manner. This gentleman, I want to say is Brother Lean. I want to say that. Okay. And he was the last one. This was 2 weeks before we left the island. And we found him. And it was just, oh my gosh, it was so exciting because he had stayed active. He had married, that young lady was in his single adult ward, had married her, and they'd had 4 children. 3 had served missions and married in the temple. His youngest, is not in this picture, was preparing to serve a mission. And we went out to dinner with them, and it was what a perfect way to end the evening. And so part of this was to pitch the excitement of senior missions, but not everybody's going to have an experience like that. But you will have experiences on your mission that will bring you closer to your Father. This gentleman was a taxi driver that, I don't remember where he took us. I don't remember, he took us somewhere, and we just started talking, and he got very, very interested. And he said, we need to have dinner again. We're going to have dinner. And I said, okay, that's fine. And it went on, and we just never hit our schedules again. So the last week before we left, I finally got a hold of him. And I said, let's go and have that dinner. And I want to bring you a Book of Mormon that we talked about in the taxi cab. And we'd written in it in Mandarin, our testimonies. And so he took us, do you remember where it went?
James, where do you remember? I showed you a picture earlier today, and you said...
It smelled. It was outside of Taipei.
Oh, 九份.
All I remember is
Red Town.
Oh, 三峡. 三峡?
Sanja?
Yeah.
It may have been. All I remember is it reeked. It was so stinky. It was like open sewer heaven. But the food was amazing. Anyway, so this was me explaining to him. I actually took about 15 minutes, and gave the history, Joseph Smith first vision and the history of the Book of Mormon in Mandarin, which I would have never been able to do had I not been in that position. Over dinner, and left the Book of Mormon with him, and we've talked ever since. But just absolutely wonderful memories.
These last few we'll just speed through because we've taken way too much time. But one of the blessings also of a senior mission is you get to enjoy. You get to have fun. You get to go see the sights. So this was in Fulong. We rented the little electric bikes. And so we really did try when we were off shift to get out and be with the people and see the island and enjoy the beauty. And so these are just some of the pictures. Din Tai Fung, our
Din Tai
favorite.
Fung.
But I would have never in a million years have guessed that I would have fallen in love with Taiwan and the people. I was so against it for our whole marriage, and now I know that when the Spirit speaks, you can do anything. And I just really, truly did fall in love with the people. So it's really fun to be here with you, even though I didn't serve with you, just to know that you too probably have just such a deep love for these people, and it changed my life, I'll tell you that. So if any of you have an opportunity to serve missions, they're wonderful, and we look forward to doing another one.
And then that last screenshot, you can't really see it well, but there's a lot we found out when we started doing firesides about senior missions, that the majority of people and senior couples do not know that they can, if they choose, they can pick their missions. It's 12 months, 6 months, 12 month, 18 month, the location, temple, self-reliance. Now granted, you still, the church can still decide to send you somewhere else, but you can literally go to that website and customize your mission. And then hit submit, and then get a call from your bishop within like 15 minutes. So anyway, a lot of people don't know that. We did not know that. So anyway, it's been a pleasure. It's been so exciting to see so many people that I remember, and sadly so many people that I do not remember. I apologize for that. So anyway, thank you again, and we can talk to you later. So thank you.